The story of human evolution is one that is intimately tied to meat. Once we started cooking meat, then we could get lots of energy, and that energy enabled us to have big brains and become physically, anatomically human. Hunters and gatherers all over the world are very sad if, for a few days at a time, the hunters come back empty-handed. The camp becomes quiet, the dancing stops, and then somebody catches some meat. They bring the prey into the camp, or nowadays into somebody's back garden with a barbecue. Everybody gets excited to come and share the meat. It is ritually cut and passed out to people. We are a species designed to love meat.
Feeding the world is a complex problem. I think people don't yet realize what an impact meat consumption has on the planet.
We have a vision in our minds of, there's this pristine farm, it's got a couple cows, a couple chickens, but that's not actually how meat gets produced today.
70% of the antibiotics used in the United States now are not used on people, they're used on animals in agriculture because we keep them in such inhumane, overcrowded conditions.
When you see how these cows are treated, and certainly something I'm not comfortable with.
If you eat a lot of meat, you're 20% more likely to have a chronic disease like cancer or heart disease, just because of the fat and what's in the fat. 18% of our greenhouse gas emissions come from meat production. We're also using something like 1,500 gallons of water to produce just 1 pound of meat. Meat takes up about 70% of our arable lands. There's no question that if we were able to shift more of our land into intensive fruit and vegetable production, we'd be able to feed a lot more people a lot healthier diet. With the global population growing from 7 billion to 9 billion people, by 2050, the demand for meat will double. We can't just continue doing what we've been doing. Unless we make some changes in how we produce meat on this planet, we're in for a terrible reckoning.
What climate change is going to do is going to change resource distribution. And in a modern world where we have Paleolithic mines and contemporary weapons, that's really dangerous.
There are basically 3 things that can happen going forward. One is we will all become vegetarian. I don't think that's really likely. The second is we ignore the issues, and that leads to continued environmental harm. And the third option is we do something new.
Meat is muscle from an animal. By our technology, we actually are producing meat. It's just not in a cow. The stem cell techniques are very useful for growing beef. There's very little that we have to do to make these cells do the right thing. They divide by themselves, and if we provide those anchor points, the future tendons, they will self-organize into muscle. So a few cells that we take from this cow can turn into 10 tons of meat.
Muscle tissue is a key component of the meat we eat, and it's first harvested in a small and harmless procedure. Next, the tissue is cut into minuscule pieces to separate the muscle fibers and cells. And this is how it looks close up. The muscle tissue consists of fat cells and muscle cells, which are separated to produce cultured beef. By dissecting the muscle cells, individual cells can be removed and cultured. The cells start dividing. Eventually, from one muscle cell, more than 1 trillion cells can be grown. These cells naturally merge to form so-called myotubes, which are no longer than 0.3 millimeters. The myotubes are then placed in a ring around a central hub of gel. Muscles' innate tendency to contract causes them to put on bulk, growing into a small piece of muscle tissue. From one small piece of tissue, this pioneering technique can produce more than 1 trillion strands. When all these little pieces of muscle are layered together, we get exactly the same thing we started with: beef.
20 years from now, if you enter the supermarket, you would have the choice between two products that are identical. One is made in an animal. It now has this label on it that animals have suffered or have been killed for this product. And it has an eco tax because it's bad for the environment. And it's exactly the same as an alternative product that is being made in a lab. It tastes the same, it has the same quality, it has the same price or is even cheaper. So what are you going to choose? From an ethical point of view, it has only benefits.
The world's first lab-grown burger is being unveiled this morning. The question is, would you eat it? NBC's Keir Simmons is in London with the details. Keir, good morning to you.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. Just to reassure you, this is a normal, everyday burger, but inside the building behind me, a group of brave people are preparing a burger that costs $325,000 to create. And whilst the patty inside looks just like this one, it's not meat as we've known it.